Look at the modern laptop. It sits on the desk entirely silent. No whirring fans, no exhaust vents, just a smooth, sealed slab of metal. It feels less like a machine and more like an artifact that dropped out of a vacuum. Steve Jobs grew up surrounded by the flat plains and glass walls of mid-century California suburbs. These homes, built by developers like Joseph Eichler, brought clean, minimalist architecture to the mass market. Jobs adopted this aesthetic early on, deciding consumer technology should look just as sleek and tidy. But inside Apple, minimalism required absolute dominance over the hardware. For Jobs, achieving a perfectly clean exterior meant locking down every single internal component. The user wasn't supposed to tinker with the engineering. They were supposed to marvel at the finished product. Apple used this sleek outer shell to establish a strict hierarchy. The design draws a hard line between the genius of the creator and the daily habits of the consumer. You see this philosophy in the early Macintosh. Jobs viewed computers as works of fine art, insisting real artists must sign their work. On February 10, 1982, he gathered the Macintosh engineering team and had them sign a large sheet of drafting paper. Those signatures were then pressed into a metal mold and permanently engraved into the plastic casing of every new machine. There was a catch, though. Those names were on the inside of the case. Unless a consumer took a special tool and forcefully pried the machine open, they would never see the signatures. The pride of the engineers was permanently sealed away in the dark. Jobs even tried to eliminate the auditory evidence that the computer was working. He developed an intense physiological aversion to the hum of cooling fans, viewing them as clumsy remnants of the industrial age. He demanded that the Apple II, the Apple III, and the early Mac ship without any fans or ventilation grills, even though that lack of airflow made the hardware prone to overheating. By removing the vents and trapping the creator's marks inside a closed box, Apple attempted to erase the physical friction of engineering. They built a silent, sealed shrine to technology. But you cannot actually destroy the violent friction required to manufacture a computer. You can only move it somewhere else. On the other side of the Pacific, the illusion of a quiet, frictionless device requires a deafening industrial reality. By 2010, the physical labor of building consumer technology had been almost entirely offshore to massive manufacturing hubs in China. To keep up with Apple's exploding production targets, Foxconn chairman Terry Gou initiated a rapid expansion project. He coined the term Chengdu speed to describe the breakneck pace required to meet the demands of Silicon Valley. The result was a multi-billion-dollar factory complex in Sichuan province, housing 52 separate production lines. From the time they broke ground, the entire facility was erected in exactly 76 days. This enormous infrastructure was built largely to process one specific material. Apple relied heavily on aluminum to build devices like the iPad. It offered an incredible strength-to-weight ratio, allowing the final product to feel thin, light, and perfectly smooth. Delivering millions of devices that look perfectly weightless requires a sprawling, hyper-speed industrial machine churning around the clock. By 2011, as the iPad II went into full production, the North Zone A5 workshop inside the Chengdu complex became the epicenter for global aluminum finishing. Taking a rough, raw aluminum ingot and turning it into a flawless shell requires brute force. Hundreds of high-speed polishing machines have to grind down the metal surfaces, creating an immense amount of physical friction and a continuous scream on the factory floor. Every second of that grinding process sheds microscopic particles of metal. The air inside the workshop quickly fills with ultra-fine aluminum dust, swirling under the fluorescent lights like a toxic snowstorm. In May of 2011, an independent labor group called SACOM published a severe warning about the conditions inside the A5 workshop. They found that workers were buffing metal in a closed environment with severely inadequate ventilation. Employees received zero training on handling combustible dust, and the microscopic aluminum was so thick they were inhaling it right through their masks. The mechanical friction that Steve Jobs fought to remove from his computers hadn't disappeared. It was concentrated into a sealed, unventilated room where it was breathed into the lungs of anonymous laborers. When you scale down from the staggering production quotas of the factory floor, you are left with the physical reality of the individuals doing the work. Picture a single laborer at the end of a grueling shift, having buffed thousands of metal casings to perfection. As they finally step away from the polishing machine, the worker pulls off a pair of worn-out cotton gloves. The hands underneath are coated in a thick layer of fine silver powder. The metallic dust packs so densely into the ridges of their fingerprints and under their nails that the flesh itself appears to have turned into cold metal. Look at those hands and compare them to the inside of the 1982 Macintosh. In California, engineers proudly engraved their names into the plastic as a testament to their craft. In Chengdu, laborers without names or recognition carry a permanent, involuntary coating of industrial waste embedded directly into their skin.